Microsoft have released another in their Local Legends series, and this time it's the Beechcraft Model 18. And our journey today starts from Denham Aerodrome, a busy GA and small craft airport within the confines of the M25 on the outskirts of Greater London. This is a payware add-on airport for PC, and it's from the developers Burning Blue Design. Burning Blue Design, known for their attention to detail and ability to encompass an atmosphere that brings an airport to life, have not disappointed on this occasion. Burning Blue, of course, well known for its Farnborough and Martha's Vineyard airports. Check them out, link in the notes below. But our main focus today is the Beechcraft Model 18, an easily recognized aircraft with its twin tails and beefy 2 radial engines. Welcome back to the Sim Hangar. My name's Mark. Thanks for watching, and let's get started. The Beechcraft Model 18 is available from the Marketplace for both PC and Xbox, and the cost is about $15 US. It's from developer Carenado, and as is typical for this developer, well, the external detail, modelling and textures are exceptional. This aircraft, which first flew in 1937 and has had a long history right through to the 1970s, and some of these birds are still flying today. With its long wings that look slightly too big for its body, this aircraft found employment in all corners of the globe, in both military, cargo and passenger variants. It's a cracker. And this is not the first Beechcraft we've seen from Carenado. Previously, they brought us the D-17S Stagger Wing, one I still enjoy flying today. But if we were to draw a comparison, perhaps the closest would be the Yonkers Ju-52, and more or less of the same era. Other comparisons we could draw perhaps would be, no, not that one, perhaps the Boeing 247, another 5-star aircraft. Well, enough waffle, let's get the back door closed and let's get away. The internal textures are more than adequate and retain the same attention to detail, as well as a few little animations such as this table. You only get one variant, and that's the passenger variant. The other nice feature is that the passenger lights work, when the battery's on of course, and the cockpit looks very good as well. Just bear in mind this is Carenado, it's nowhere near study level, but nonetheless there's enough to keep you busy. Quite a few of the switches and dials you can't interact with. But for what you're paying for this aircraft, well, overall, it's great value for money. Time to make preparations to get away. Uncharacteristically warm weather in the UK at the moment, so I think we'll just open a few windows. I am using live weather today. Lovely clear day. Not much of a breeze though. We'll hide the yoke so we can see the buttons and switches a little bit more easily. And now time for pre-flight prep. And to do that we go to the center console and check that our primer is in the center position, which it's not. Let me just correct that. There we go. Check the parking brake is on and that our tail wheel is unlocked, which it is, as we'll be taxiing shortly. Pull up to unlock. Check both left and right tanks are on, which they are. Gear is down. Flaps are all the way up. Now move both mixture levers to fully rich, and we can do the same with the prop levers, both of them fully forward. These levers here are the carb heat, but it's fairly warm today so we won't be using those. Make sure all carb heat levers are fully forward. Now to check the cowl flaps, and they should be open for start, which is pulled all the way up. Both are open, that's correct. We can see the cowl flaps here opening on the underneath of the main engine housing, and is designed to provide additional cooling when needed. If we were to release both levers, well, the cowling flaps would close. We can see here now the flaps are closed, normally open for startup. So let's just open the cowling flaps for both engines again. There we are, and we can continue our checks. Magnetos are off, lights are off, just hide that yoke as well. Battery and generator switches off. Pre-flight checks complete. Let's now get these engines started so we can get away. We're off to White Waltham. Start with the left engine battery and generator on. The starter selector is on the left engine, which is exactly where we want it. Now to our magnetos. Normally you would just put the left magnetos on, but I'll turn them all on as some of these are linked to my Bravo throttle quadrant. Primary and secondary magnetos for each engine are now done and on, and we can now turn on the beacon light to indicate to everybody around us that we'll be starting shortly. We can now prime the left engine, move the primer selector to the left, and then click to move it up and down. I think about 3 or 4 will do today. It's not cold. That's it, the engine is now primed, back to the center position, and we're now ready for engine start. Hidden under the red box here is our booster pump and our starter. First of all, let's put the booster on. It's extremely noisy. I'm not sure if it's that noisy in real life. Even drowns out the engines. Booster's on, and now press the starter switch and hold it down for a short period to ensure the engine catches. And we have engine start. Let's now get that booster switched off as quickly as possible. There we are. Quick glance to the co-pilot side, make sure that the oil temperatures are starting to rise, which they are very slowly, and I'm just pushing the throttle forward slightly. I want to be idling around 1000 RPM. There we are, 1000 RPM. We can now go on and start the right engine. First of all, we need to prime. So we're going to do exactly the same as we did with the left engine. Primer switch to the right, pump it about 4 times, then return it to the center position. That just puts a bit of fuel into the fuel lines. Right battery and generator can now come on. Next, let's get the starter switch clicked over to the right engine. It can be a bit fiddly at times. I'm currently using my center mouse wheel to move the switch. Let's start the dreaded booster pump. Prop looks clear, so we can now hit the starter switch and get that engine started. And we have start on engine 2. And thankfully now we can now turn off that booster pump. We're done with that, and we can close the safety cover. We can now put on the nav lights, and we'll put them on to steady. There's also a flashing option which would act as strobes. Nearly ready to taxi. Landing lights can stay off for now. I'd better put on the seatbelt lights, just leaning forward to make sure I get the right one. I am using track IR today. And lastly, although I don't really need it, for good form I'm just going to put on the pitot heat. That's on. We're now ready to taxi, so we can close the windows. First the quarter light. That's closed, and now the side window. We just slide it forward and lock it in place. We'll now put our avionics master on. We are flying VFR today. It's only a very short hop to White Waltham, another Burning Blue Designs airport, and as I imagine would be the case with any of the B-18 still flying, they would have upgraded navigation. We have Garmin, and we also have a transponder. Once again, for good form, I'm just going to set the transponder. This will be very useful if you're flying on something like VATSIM or something similar. I'm going to put in code 1200 and put it in standby mode. We'll change that to Alt once we get clearance to get onto the runway. That's all we need to do. Parking brake off, move the throttle slightly forward, she doesn't take much, and we're taxiing towards the runway. Keep an eye on your speed, and now's an excellent time just to test the differential brakes. You'll find her quite easy to taxi and steer. We'll just hold short here just for a short moment. Just need to check the stewardess has brought the lunch. Yep, looks like it's there. Transponder can go to Alt, and we can get our landing lights on. Nav lights could now go to strobe. Landing lights look amazing as they drop down from the wing. Love that effect. Won't bother with the run up today. Parking brake off, and we can now taxi onto the runway, and let's get away. White Waltham, Echo Golf Lima Mike. Here we come. Short hop, it's about 12 nautical mile. We're now lined up on the runway. Both engine oil temperatures just coming into the green. Now slowly advancing the throttles. I'm going to cheat here. I'm using the elevated position so I can see better over the nose. The air steward has kindly brought me a cushion. Thank you very much. Pulling fully back on the yoke so I don't nose over. I'm advancing the manifold pressure now to about 30 inches. Hold her on the brakes. Let the engine stabilize and release the parking brakes, and away we go. Throttles now fully forward. Slowly ease the yoke back to the neutral position. When the tail comes off the ground, you're going to have to use quite a lot of rudder to hold her aligned, and remember you're at quite an acute angle. Take some getting used to, otherwise you feel you're tipping over, but you need to keep back pressure on that yoke, otherwise you'll end up bouncing down the runway. Rotation was about 75 knots. We have positive climb, so gear up. We had quite a long runway, so we don't have to worry about flaps. We didn't use them. Now passing 1,500 feet and climbing at about 1,500 feet per minute, which is a little bit more aggressive than I thought it was going to be. As it's such a short hop, we're only going to climb to about 3,000, maybe just over 3,000 feet. And I'm going to leave the landing lights on. I have had to turn up the volume on the engines. They are very quiet indeed, and hopefully this is something Carenado will address in a future update. The engine sounds themselves are okay, they're just far too quiet. We're now making our turn towards White Waltham, and we'll be flying a direct route. Altitude coming on 2,500 feet, and we're climbing 1,000 feet per minute. I've come back on the throttle to about 31-32 inches, and I've pulled back the props to about 1,900 RPM. There's White Waltham dead ahead. We held our altitude at around 3,000 feet, but only for a very short time. White Waltham is now 7 nautical miles and we're beginning our descent. When first flying this aircraft, planned to come down a bit early. These big wings tend to hold her up. She's slow to drop until you put in flaps and gear, and then the exact opposite apply. Need to watch your airspeed or it'll ebb away very quickly and you'll drop like a stone. Coming up on 2,000 feet and doing a turn towards the airport. I want an early lineup for final for my approach. Speed 120 knots. Landing lights are already on, so we don't have to worry about that. Prop and mixture levers. Now we're going to start pushing them all the way forward. Our landing will be on a grass runway, but it's nice and dry. Coming up on 100 knots, so flaps down 1. And feeding in a little bit of trim just to keep the descent going. Gear down. Now turning for final lineup. White Waltham, clear the runway and warm up those bacon sandwiches. We're coming in. Flaps 3 and now flaps 4, all the way down. Now on final, just watching my airspeed, it's dropped a little low, just pushing the throttles forward a little bit to give me extra lift. She gets sloppy very quickly if you get below 80 knots. Why do they always have to have high trees before a runway in Microsoft Flight Simulator? Runway 21, prepare yourself. I'm over the threshold at about 85, pulling back on the throttles now, but not all the way to idle. Just hold a bit of power there. Starting the flare, throttles to idle now, and I'm going to hold the nose a little bit up. That's the stall sound, exactly the sound I wanted to hear, and we're down despite a small bounce, using differential brakes to guide me as my tail wheel is currently locked, but we're down safe and sound. Tail wheel now unlocked, so I should have better steering now. Yes, I have. This is Burning Blue Designs White Waltham, and we'll do our flaps up. So what are my thoughts on the Carenado Beechcraft Model 18? Well, for $15 I think it's value for money. There's no real system depth, and I can't attest to the flight model. But what I can tell you is there's enough to keep you busy, and this aircraft is a handful on both takeoff and landing. Some more work is required on the sounds. Engines are far too quiet, and some of the sounds in the cockpit, well, they don't seem to repeat. And that booster pump, well, you got to turn that sound down. But overall, well, this is going to stay in my hangar, and it's going to get more airtime. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you very much for staying with me today. Hope you enjoyed it. Take care, look after yourself, see you again soon, and bye for now.